We're going to get more analysis on the diplomatic side of things. For that, we're joined by International Affairs Editor Douglas Herbert.
Hey, Karis.
Doug, Volodymyr Zelensky has challenged Putin then to show up in Istanbul on Thursday. Do you think he's going to bite? And who's in control here?
First one, is he going to bite? Highly unlikely. Who's in control? Vladimir Putin. So let me start with the first part of that. The reason I don't think he's going to bite is because, for one, Putin has shown nothing but absolute contempt for Volodymyr Zelensky and for the Ukrainians that he has waged this unprovoked illegal war against. Remember, just a few days ago, during the May 9th Victory Day celebrations, commemoration on Red Square, Vladimir Putin was in full existential threat to our nation mode. In his mind, the narrative remains just as it ever has. Russia is fighting Nazis. I put that in quotes. He's fighting Nazis in Ukraine just as they fought Nazis in World War II, and he needs to make sure that he does absolutely everything possible to protect the Russian people from this clear and present existential threat posed by Ukraine. Nothing will stop what he sees as his justified invasion of Ukraine. No one, not even Donald Trump really, is going to be able to dictate to Vladimir Putin what he should and must do to end this war. Putin does actually see himself as a peacemaker, as paradoxical and as sort of surrealistic that might seem from a Western perspective. Given his narrative, given his conviction that he is fighting Nazis in Ukraine and doing the good fight, he sees this war as one that he must wage to the very end, and it must be victorious, as the slogan went on Victory Night. His own presidential spokesperson, Dmitry Peskov, has basically said, trying to pressure us is quite useless. So while we sit here in Paris and other European capitals and we try to sort of read into this perhaps an optimistic or glass half full interpretation that, well, maybe Donald Trump can bring some pressure to bear on Putin. Putin's been weakened. His army has been weakened as well. He's feeling the heat. He's feeling the pressure. No, actually, he is not. If Vladimir Putin were to show up in Istanbul, I won't rule it out. It's highly unlikely. But if he were, it would be, first of all, the first face-to-face talks he's had with Zelensky since December 2019, when Zelensky was just a few months into his presidency. But if he were to show up and sit down at a table for so-called, I'm using the quotes, talks, they would be nothing but talks on the terms of Ukraine's capitulation, i.e. Ukraine ceding the territory, the 4 eastern and southeastern southern regions that Russia has illegally seized and annexed, the terms of Ukraine never joining NATO, the terms for the West never giving any further military support to Ukraine, and so on and so forth. But they will not be talks anything along the lines of how the West, or here in Europe, or even perhaps in an optimistic vision, Donald Trump is interpreting Putin sitting down for good faith talks that involve anything that would be a ceasefire that Ukraine or its allies would recognize as a ceasefire.
Well, Europe is skeptical about Putin's intentions. I mean, Germany's new leader says Russia must first lay down its arms before any talks can happen.
Right.
What do you think Europe can do to make that happen?
It can do what it is trying to do, a lot of active diplomacy, a lot of shows of solidarity. Whether or not that influences Putin, past precedent suggests not really. Look, it is clear that Europe has gotten its act together in terms of trying to find a more united voice. Germany's new chancellor, as you just rightly said, Friedrich Merz, he perhaps gone further in these expressions of solidarity. He hasn't even ruled out sending long-range tourist missiles to Ukraine. And he does say he expects Moscow to abide by any ceasefire. So he and other Europeans, including Macron, are trying to put the ball squarely in Russia's court. The problem is whether or not they can bring any real, tangible pressure to bear, pressure being something that by definition, makes Vladimir Putin sit up, take notice, and perhaps change his behavior. If it's just a matter of extending or deepening sanctions on Russia's energy and banking sectors, as is right now the rhetoric out of Europe, as they might do, if Russia were to fail to comply and enforce a ceasefire, a lasting, durable ceasefire, Yeah, sure. Around the margins, it would affect some people, but Putin has proven time and again very savvy at getting around sanctions and finding ways to circumvent them. The UK has taken an interesting move in the last few days. It's actually targeted some of the foreign operators of the shadow fleets that carry Russian oil, and the idea being that Putin's tried to get around sanctions on his energy sector by outsourcing to these fleets that aren't directly Russian, and the revenues go back to Russia. So the UK is like, let's tax the individuals who run those shadow fleets. But that is sort of like one idea out of many, and that in and of itself is not enough to change Putin. The only person at the end of the day, maybe Donald Trump, but even Donald Trump is showing lack of patience, exasperation. He's more likely to walk away before anything concrete were to happen that would change Putin's behavior. And I think Putin knows that. He's playing for time, and he has the time on his side.
All right. Thank you very much for that, Douglas Herbert, for that analysis. Moving on.